Axe crew. Today we got another Power Axe exclusive. This guy right here, Jeremy, does some awesome work. You've seen this rig on the channel before, but it's been a few years back. Today we're back for an update, and what he's done, hey, it's just awesome. Come on now, let's go check it out. So tell me what you got going on here.
Well, as you started, this was the YJ that we did the prep talk video on back some time ago, and I was in the very beginning of the project back then when you was up here originally. And back then we were going to start back we're going to go back with a 4-liter rig like we'd started with, but as you can see, that's not the 4-liter that was in it.
No, not by a long shot. I like this.
We've done a diesel conversion, and one that's not, you don't see every day. We've done a Kubota conversion for this one. So
Kubota, like as in forklifts?
Yeah, that's pretty much what this is. This is a V2607T, which is their 2.6 liter direct inject turbo diesel, and it's commonly what you would see either in like a skid steer or a forklift, mini excavator, something like that. So
that is so cool.
This would be pretty much the big brother to the more common Kubota swaps you see with the 22 and 2403s, but this is a totally different animal.
Yeah, I love how easy it starts up. So all mechanical injection, I mean, it's just simplicity at its finest.
Yes, it's stupid simple. It's a direct inject mechanical diesel. The only thing electrical on it whatsoever would be the fuel shut-off solenoid, which I don't have it on now because we've got it in as you see it. But I've got a YJ fuel pump hooked up in a container of diesel fuel. I've got the bypass going directly back to it.
So it doesn't care what fuel pressure you send down, as long as the direct injection get what it needs.
Exactly, and what it will do, here's your bypass that runs from your pump over, and that feeds directly back into, it'll be plumbed directly back into the factory return lines. And I'll be running the factory fuel lines that the 4.0 uses. So
okay, I like it.
Because that was the fuel pump that we actually started it up off of, was a 4.0 pump.
So what all did you have to go through to get the conversion to work with your transmission? Of course, that with any engine swaps, it's not factory per se.
Right.
That's the biggest hurdle always. Get your factory transmission to made up to whatever it is you're sticking in.
Right. That was the biggest hurdle. I had the motor. I sat on the motor for quite some time. Me and you had talked about it back and forth, trading messages back and forth.
Right.
And I really sat down to get an earnest look at it. And when I started the 2607, got to looking at it in earnest, I couldn't find anything aftermarket whatsoever. There's nothing out there. I'm not saying that I'm the only person to do a 2607 swap, but this is the only one I've seen.
I got you. All right.
And though it's not the same, it's very similar to the 2.8 Cummins in size.
Okay.
So that kind of gave me a place to start looking for aftermarket stuff.
Makes sense, right?
A couple of companies I use to get parts from, I'm not affiliated with or sponsored by. I pay retail just like anybody else, but the bell housing come from Quick Draw brand.
Okay.
This is their 2.8 Cummins to AX15 bell housing kit. And what this does is it allows you to use the 2.8 Cummins to an AX15 or NV3550. It'll bolt up to either. Okay. It uses a stock Jeep clutch kit. It's got a brand new loop clutch in it, hooked up to the Kubota flywheel. And the only thing that I had to do to make everything work together is I did have to put a filler plate in, basically, is what I had to do there. But aside from that, that was it. That's where I got the bell housing from Quick Draw brand.
Okay. But you had to do more than just adapt the bell housing.
And like you said, that was the hard part, was trying to figure out what would work with the factory flywheel housing here. Now, what I did, of course, the bolt pattern that's on this bell housing is for the 2.8 Cummins. And what I had to do is I had to adapt this bolt pattern to the Kubota engine, which I drilled and tapped. I added 2 7/16 by 14 studs. And then we've got 5 more 7/16 by 14 grade 8 fasteners. Now, to get everything to work together, the Kubota flywheel is almost the same exact size as the YJ 4.0 pressure plate. So the loop clutch was drilled and tapped to the Kubota flywheel. I machined a pilot bearing bushing for the AX15 pilot bearing. And then what I had to do is I had to make an adapter plate, or a spacer plate right here, 3/8" spacer plate here, and had to shorten the snout of the AX15 input shaft by 1/2 inch.
Because it hit the inside the flywheel.
Exactly. We was 875 thousandths too proud, or 7/8 of an inch. And instead of taking all that off the input shaft, I took part of it off the input shaft and then added.
To move the transmission back a little bit, another 1/2 inch or so.
And that still maintains, that still maintains all the factory drive line. The drive line, from here back, everything is as it was when I started the project. Nothing's changed with the drive line. It has the TerraFlex SYE kit. I've got the Adams rear drive shaft you have to go back in, the stock front drive shaft to go back in. And again, this plate right here in the front, it is basically a filler plate because you've got an internal lip that's for the 2.8 that sits proud on top of the flywheel housing here, and this just acts as a filler plate to support the flange.
Okay.
And then another thing is it blocks off the 2.8 starter boss and keeps the weather out.
All right.
And then of course it's set up, this converted the 93, which this is a 93, it converted it from a internal slave to an external slave. Now the neat thing about the Quick Draw brand kits is they work with your factory Jeep clutch kit and the factory slave. So you can off the shelf parts work with it. So that was on. The only thing that I had to eat through the kit itself was the 2.8 flywheel. I couldn't get the kit without the flywheel, so I absorbed the cost of it just to get the bell housing. But it works like a charm. First startup with the transmission behind it, there was no weird shimmy, shakes, vibrations, anything. It ran just like it was meant to be on there.
So we're not going to expose too many details as far as what the cost of everything. Right. But based off the conversation you and I had earlier, this is ridiculous. What you paid for the engine, which is totally not typical of any other sales you're going to find out there.
No.
And the kit, everything you got going on with the transmission adapter and all that, all but less the rebuilding at 4.0.
Yes, I couldn't rebuild a 4.0 for what I've got in this conversion. That's counting the cost of the motor, the cost of the bell housing kit, the new clutch, and the plate aluminum that I had to have.
So if a person wanted to do this swap, what would be the typical price tag you would find for one of these engines?
The only two 2607s I've found online anywhere were on one of your more popular auction sites. I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
And the cheapest one I found was $7,250.
You stole this thing, you know.
No, I almost felt bad after I paid it. But
just for a moment, though.
Yeah, but most diesel conversions, like the more typical ones, your TDIs, your OM617 Mercedes and stuff like that, you're going to start on the bottom end of $5,000.
I know a CJ8 in the town I live in. It's got the 617 swap. God, a Jeep. I mean, I love rat rods.
Right.
I love to beat up, ragged out, whatever. This CJ7 definitely rough around the edges. Right. And the body on the CG8, it just works. I mean, it just works.
Well, that was kind of one of those things. I got the engine for song and a dance like we talked about, and it was one of them that warranted looking into it. And I sat down in earnest and got to figuring this portion of it out. And this was the headache. The headache was figuring out how to get the engine and the transmission work, because I didn't want to change anything with the factory drive line.
And I totally understood that, yeah.
And it's as it is, and like I said, it uses off-the-shelf Jeep clutch, off-the-shelf Jeep slave, pilot bearing, which I had to machine the bushing, but I mean, it's all Jeep with the exception of the bell housing. So
awesome swap.
Gonna be interesting.
See up front too, we got fabricated your motor mounts.
Right. I got the DOM tubes. Again, I'm not sponsored or affiliated with them, but the DOM sleeves and the poly bushings come from Barnes 4-wheel drive.
I've used them several times.
The C-channel builders channels here, they come from Barnes as well. But I had a local guy cut out my plates on CNC plasma and the ears, Sam Gosser's Welding and Fabrication, super guy, good friend of mine. He helped me out with CNC plasma, cutting those out. And of course, I welded everything together and done all the associated work. The only work that I've not done myself on the Jeep was the blasting of the frame for the refinish and cutting those parts out. Everything else I've done by my own hand and on my own my spare time.
And I think whenever I was here before, we discussed that you've never taken on a project like this before.
No, nothing like this. No, never.
And that goes with some of the talks I've had with you guys before, is that so many people out there are scared to take on a project because, oh my gosh, I've never done this before. Don't be like that. No. Now, definitely it's going to make it more time consuming because you got to learn the process as you go.
Right.
Research. That's where you need to watch YouTube. And and now that you got all your forums off the manufacturers and stuff, you can talk to them and they'll talk to you to say how you need to do this for this swap or whatever. So if you got a dream you want to make happen, just do the research. Oftentimes I would suggest to do your research ahead of time. Then you're not wasting money buying parts you may not end up not using. So.
And that's exactly what I did on this swap here. I had to make sure it was going to be feasible to do within my budget. And and I made it happen.
So don't be afraid to tackle projects. If you got a dream you want to make happen, do it.
You can turn a wrench, you can do this.
Yeah, that's it. So you're still using the same fuel filter,
Right.
and you got to use the factory fuel pump.
Yes.
And look at these lines, real pretty.
These are actually, it's like I said in the YJ Prep Talk video. These were the factory lines. I just cleaned them up.
Really?
Cleaned them up, rubbed them down with some Scotch-Brite and acetoned them. Now the brake lines are all new. These are stainless steel Dorman lines. These are aftermarket high pressure stainless lines. But all the brake lines, it's got all brand new stainless steel brake lines. And I've completely replumbed the frame with the exception of the fuel lines.
Yeah, I've never got a hold of a rig that I can reuse my lines. Not that clean anyway.
Well, we lucked out. The frame was in extremely good shape when I got a hold of it. So
that Cherokee I got a hold of whenever I was tearing it down for that camper build I'm doing.
Right.
Back next to where the fuel tank is, where the lines right next to it,
Right.
it had holes in the lines so big that you could take like the little, not the little regular pencil lead,
Right.
but like a little kitty pencil, I could stick inside the lines.
Oh,
they were so rusted out. So here we are up front. What do you got going on for as electronics you can do for this?
Okay, the only electronics that'll actually be on it, number one will be, of course, there'll be an electric fuel shut-off solenoid, of course. But as far as the motor itself, I'm going with a 140 amp one-wire GM alternator.
Classic.
Stupid simple to rig up.
Absolutely.
And that will be it as far as electrical is concerned for the engine. The only other thing up front that you'll see is, because it's a direct inject diesel, vacuum will be at a premium. There's no vacuum pretty much.
Right.
So in some of the stuff I've seen online, I've decided to go ahead and do the Chevrolet Astro van Hydro Boost conversion on it. So I'll be running the Hydro Boost power steering pump and the Hydro Boost assembly for my brakes for it.
And he and I was talking a few moments ago before we started firing the camera up. Rust Bucket, I don't know if you guys pay attention to my Instagram much, but I drop just random stuff on my Instagram. I got a 14 bolt and some axles out of a K20 Chevy. And he and I was discussing brake options and stuff. When he said, talking about going to Hydro Boost, I don't know why I didn't think about that as many cars as I build. Because here I was thinking about doing like the Dodge Master Cylinder and all that. Why not just do Hydro Boost and be done with it? So my 14 bolt, he kind of gave me the idea of going that route. Again, emphasizing that you talk to different people on your builds, you get ideas.
And it's stupid simple. I mean, your power steering pump's running not only your power steering, but it's also running your Hydro Boost. So you don't have to worry about the vacuum. And like you said, when you're running oversized, like you're going to do with Rust Bucket, when you run the oversized brakes and then you go to do a rear disc conversion, it just makes sense.
Exactly. And he also mentioned the one-wire alternator for GM, the one-wire conversion for the GM alternators, and also the, what is it? Ford.
I know what you're talking about.
3G series, I think it is. The 3G series, you can convert them to a one-wire. They're stupid simple. Both of them are great options. It's really just going to come down depending on what you're building, which one fits better.
Well, I looked at the GM one-wire for the simple fact that if I'm out somewhere and I drop an alternator or something, go to any parts house.
Yeah.
You go to a parts house and get an alternator
Exactly.
anywhere. So, again, something to think of down the road.
Yes, and that's one thing whenever you do any kind of builds, all this specialty stuff, specialty parts, stay away from that.
Right.
Because in the end, it's going to create yourself a headache. Yeah, on the front end, you're going to be running great.
Yeah.
Stuff wears out.
Right.
And after a while, something wears out. You want to go to another specialty shop and try to find this particular part that you can't even find, or they have to remake. Versus go to your local big box auto parts store, buy it, walk out the door, get your rig up and going.
Exactly. Twist wrenches and you're running.
That's it.
But that's it. Keep it simple.
Absolutely. Now he rolls like I do. Straight up rolls like I do. Cobble some stuff together to make it work while you're working on it. What am I even talking about? Check out his fuel system he's got set up he set all this up just so I can come out and shoot this video. And of course he does it while he's doing his testing for the build and stuff, so check this out. He's attached his fuel line here, of course it comes up here to your direct injection. There's your return. But what have you got going on down here?
Okay, you've got your battery hooked up to the starter so you can start. There's my high-tech fuel can, which the fuel tank, that's a off-the-shelf coffee can with some diesel fuel in it. Inside the can, you've got a regular 4.0 fuel pump hooked up to a jump pack, and to turn the fuel pump on, you simply turn on your jump pack, and it's pumping fuel through it right now, coming right back to it.
Love it.
If it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. So,
see, this is why he and I, we start chatting. Okay, of course you started out on my YouTube channel.
Right.
Then you came over onto my personal Facebook. We started chatting from there. And then the reason we really kind of, I don't know, really got to know each other is the place I used to work years ago was your great uncle.
It's my great uncle, my grandmother's brother.
Yeah. And he and I were just talking smack, back and forth, because I got a lot of family from Eastern Kentucky. And he, of course, this is where I'm at right now. And we started talking about my family, where I used to work, blah, blah, blah. And then we realized we had a lot of stuff in common, small world situation, you know.
Right.
And then he has this awesome build. So, got to come up for a video. Plus, we hang out and have a good time chatting too.
Exactly.
So, we're going to head inside now. We're going to check out the tub because he's done a lot of work to it as well. So, the last time I seen this tub, we had a lot of bare metal showing. What we got going on?
All right. Well, when we talked before, I had just gotten started on the project, and the frame was done, and I hadn't started on the tub yet. There was a little bit of rust in the tub, nothing major. The tub overall was extremely solid. The one of the worst places was in the toe boards right here in the front floor pan. So I went ahead and replaced both front floor pans, and just a little bit of mild patch work throughout.
Okay.
And the floor pans up here, I didn't have to replace them. I could have actually patched them, but I just went ahead and replaced them.
Oftentimes it's easier.
Right, and I'm not even, as you can see, I've not even got the drain holes drilled into them yet, but I will before it's over. And I stole one of your ideas there.
Yeah, right there. Easy pump access.
But yeah, I knocked the tub out, and it was a slow go on it. Winter hit, and it kind of slowed me down. I did get the floor pans in, but the following warm weather hit, I went through the body completely. Not trying to hide anything. I went through and got all the corrosion out that I could, which was about 100% of it or close to it. And I sealed the entire tub in a Omni epoxy primer.
Okay.
And I did a urethane Raptor black on the bottom and up the firewall, and then I did a tenable Raptor liner on the interior and the exterior in Toyota Quicksand beige.
Gotcha.
I like the flat dark earth color, and it's real similar to it, so that's what I went with.
And one thing about the Raptor liner, or bed liners in particular, a lot of people want to fuss about, oh my gosh, you're going to seal the rust into it. Whenever I was up here before, he had literally stripped this thing down, and he was cutting out all the rust. There was no rust in this metal whatsoever. Then he did the sealer primer.
Yeah, I've got pictures of the entire process from the point where it was stripped down before it was sealed in primer, when it went under primer, and then when it went under cover. Yeah. There's no hidden Easter eggs in this one. It's as solid as it comes. So. But yep, I'm to the point now we're ready to put a fuse block in and a harness in and crown the tub crown the frame with the tub here pretty quick. So.
That'd be fun.
We're on the downhill slide anyhow. We're on the back half of it. So I can see some light at the end of the tunnel. I just don't know if it's a freight train coming or if it's the end in sight. So we're getting there. Yeah,
I mean, as far as what's being released on YouTube, everybody's seeing one project right now, and that's my camper rig. But I'm working on Rust Bucket at the back end that, I'll release those videos later. So I'm going through a learning process with it to some of the things I'm changing up on it. Much like what he's doing, mixing up different components. It's a learning process to figure out what works together, what doesn't.
Right. Well, there's still a few neat things that's coming, and we'll wait when we do like a shakedown video or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll kind of keep people wondering, but I've been busy. Like I said, I took some time away due to family reasons and walked away from the project for a little bit.
Yeah.
And got back in it, and I've been wide open since the beginning of the late winter, beginning of spring till now.
Yeah.
And it's been nonstop. So we're getting there.
So I'm going to shoot for, once he gets the wire harness and everything in, I'm going to shoot for coming up here. We're going to try to put the crown on that frame, meaning we're going to set the tub up on the frame. And
right.
So I'll try to come up here and we'll video that whole process, have a little fun, a lot of laughs, a lot of goofing off. Just have a little fun with it. Once it gets it up and rolling, we're going for a ride.
We're going to do some shakedown videos.
That's right.
There you go.
Look how clean, that's the original filter that come off the engine. And that's so clean. Good score, really good score. But Jeremy, I really appreciate you letting me come out here and video on this thing again. The work you do is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I'm kind of jealous, to be honest with you.
Nothing to be jealous about. Just a simple build.
Well, everyone, if you enjoy these videos like this, let me know down in the comments. And if you like this video, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. Leave me, I already said the comments part, didn't I? You know what's up. Everyone, appreciate you hanging out. Peace. Later, y'all. Look, the little numbers rolling this time.
Ah, okay.
What's up, my Power Axe crew? Today we got another Power Axe exclusive. It really gives a lot of people out there who want to do their own projects. It gives them a lot of motivation.
Right. And like I said, anyone can do this. If you can turn a wrench or a screwdriver, you can do what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, everyone, I don't even know if that camera's pointing the right direction. That's the problem with that floating head. Sometimes it does like me, my brain wanders another direction.
Do what?
So you can see all the behind the scenes crap that I screw up on.
Well, that's fine. That's what makes it that much interesting, because you see this go and then you look at the finished video and you're like, well, I remember when.
I know it really happened right there.
Right. You were recording that time. So.
Sure did.
There we go.